All right, we alive, man.
We're rolling, baby. We're rolling. Another week.
Another week, another dollar.
How was your weekend, bro?
This weekend, got back Sunday. We were hunting up in the mountains. Took my son for the very first time, and
Really?
so it was an experience, man. It was pretty cold. We got about 4 or 5 inches of snow, raining,
Hmm.
fog would come in, and you wouldn't be able to see maybe 20 yards in front of you, and then it would go. Um, Saw a couple deer. Didn't get any elk. We were elk hunting. So,
Uh-huh.
um, my father-in-law though did get an elk. He shot it off going down the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was on the mountain slope going down. It literally took us 3 or 4 hours to get the elk. This elk was humongous. It was,
Really?
oh my gosh, dude, it was at least 350, 400 pounds.
Was it his personal best?
Yeah, he's never, it was a calf. So it was his largest calf that he's ever shot. But we,
Uh-huh.
cut the head off, cut the knee joint from going down off. And then we drug it, probably 200, 300 yards, and we are like, no, we can't do this. Like, this is gonna kill us. So we cut it in half,
Well, how far were you guys in at this point? How
like
many
up the
miles in?
mountain.
Yeah.
Going up the mountain. It was probably, we walked 2 miles,
Okay.
with my 8-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a four-wheeler, but it was so steep that we couldn't. So we
Yeah.
got there up halfway. We had to walk the rest of the way, and then the storm hit. And then it was like torrential downpour of rain. And so we had the four-wheeler up there loaded, one half on the front side, one half on the second side. It took it took every amount of energy, muscle to get that on the four-wheeler. We got the
Mm-hmm.
front, we got half of it on the front side. The
Yeah.
back tires literally were starting to raise up and like almost tip. So I jumped on the four wheeler to push down to the weight,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, no,
Bounce it
this
out
is,
a little bit, yeah.
yeah, it was not helping. And I was like, no, we gotta do something different. So we went down a little bit farther and got it a little bit more even. Got the second half. He drove the elk down, and he said he didn't even have to use the throttle. He just held the brake and he just slid
Mm-hmm.
down because it was so wet.
Really?
Yeah, it was so wet, so steep. And then my son and I walked down about a mile and a half, 2 miles down.
Uh-huh. What was
So,
what was his thoughts? What was his experience? How do you like it?
well, he says this is like probably the last time he'll do it because it was his life. He's like, oh, I'm too old for this.
Oh,
But man, it was an experience. My son got to have his first, elk hunting experience, and yeah, it was fun. But man, I am so sore, still sore.
that's a crazy part, man. So for the people that are not living here in Montana, that's a common thing.
Yeah,
Everybody hunts.
yep,
As soon as hunting season's opened, everybody's outdoors.
yep.
They're kind of scoping out a couple different areas that they're kind of thinking about hitting. It was an adjustment for me, dude. When I first got here, hunting was not even a thought down in Los Angeles. I mean, I mean,
Hunting for
you
what, right?
yeah, I mean, that's half the battle. I mean, there would be absolutely no need to go hunt, and even if you
Yeah,
wanted to go do that, like you basically didn't grow up in the city.
yeah,
You were in the outskirts, you were in the suburbs. Maybe your grandparents did it, so you maybe have an opportunity to travel a little bit. Maybe in the summer times and the winter times. From school. But other than that, man, it wasn't even a thought to me. So when I first got up here, I remember somebody was talking to me about it, and I was just like, "Oh, like I thought it was like one of those arcade games that they were talking about." You know what I'm talking about? Where they have like
yeah,
those fake shotguns that you like,
yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I was just like, "Oh, that's a fun game. What is that? What's that called?" And they're like, "Oh, no, no, no. This is what me and my kid did the other day." And I was like, "What?" It was just like, "Yeah, that's what we do up here." And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm not home. I'm not in California for sure, dude."
Exactly,
So
man.
I mean, but it's something that I've grown to appreciate. When I first got here, I just didn't
Yeah,
understand it.
yep,
Didn't understand it because nobody's ever, kind of walked me through what it means to do something like that, how
yeah,
special it is, and how like, you really, really take it into consideration. Hey, you know what? Like this animal is providing for me and my family.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I met some people that really kind of do it the right way, my respect for it just went through the roof because now
Yeah.
I finally understand what that means and how special that is and how hard it is too. So it's actually something that I'm gearing up to do here, hopefully this season. So we'll
There you
see.
go. There you go.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was definitely, I've been, I'm from Montana, so I've gone a couple times. But
Hmm.
this is my first time in Wyoming. But yeah, it was an experience, and my son had fun, and that was, one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it, is just to have him
Hmm.
have that experience. Also, get some meat, because meat is outrageously expensive, and man.
You're not lying. You're not
So
lying. Well,
yeah.
guys, welcome to another episode of Fight on Montana. I hope you guys enjoyed the little rant that we just had.
Yeah.
We usually do that before the podcast, but we're like, you know what? Let's just go live with it and
Yep.
see where it takes us. So, again, welcome to another episode. A little bit of a weird week simply because we are on bye week officially. So,
Exactly.
kind of me and Adam decided that what we're going to do is we're going to keep recap the Idaho State game from this previous weekend. We're going to give you guys a little bit of a Grizz update too. But this will relatively be a short and sweet type podcast.
Yep.
Be sure to rate, review, subscribe us on all social media platforms at Fight on Montana. We've mentioned this a couple times throughout the season, but we are a part of the FCS Fans Nation
Exactly.
on YouTube. You can go check us out there. You also have the opportunity to really kind of check out other FCS teams from across the FCS. So that's kind of a cool thing. You're dealing with a lot of talented people that love and are passionate about sports. So we get an opportunity to kind of be a part of that and share
Way more
that
talented than
platform
us.
with them. And way more talented than us.
Way more
We're
talented
we're
than us.
we're newbies and freshies. You know what I mean? So we're still learning a
Exactly.
lot, but be sure to go. Show some love, show that platform some love, and then yeah, let us know if you guys want to hear anything specific because yeah, it's been a
E-
lot of fun.
Exactly, man. We have a couple questions too, so we'll hit those up as well,
Yeah,
on the backside. And but man, Grizz update. Holy cow, we've got some Grizz updates. So
it's
let's
been a
get.
fun weekend for sports all the way around, dude.
You know what? I'm gonna start with my favorite one.
Okay,
And that's gonna be volleyball, because
dude.
volleyball dominated the poor old Kitties, 3-1. They only had one match that was an important match Friday. They took the trophy home, and so that'll stay in Missoula for a while. And they do have
Mm-hmm.
two matches this week, October 6th, which is Thursday, at Sacramento State, and then at Portland State on Saturday at 8 p.m. All those are going to be on ESPN Plus. Man, they're doing amazing things in volleyball. So definitely go watch them. Definitely go support
Mm-hmm.
them when you can. The ladies got it going.
Yeah, I mean one of the cool things about that whole situation is that not only did they get the dub, but they traveled to Bozeman, Montana to play their rival school in
Yep.
front of a attendance winning crowd. I
Yep.
think it's the most that they've ever had in attendance to a volleyball game, and they shut their asses up. How cool is
Exactly.
that to kind of think about? So there's a whole lot of pride kind of running around that program. Again, we have Coach Lawrence here I guess a couple of months ago at this point,
Yep.
just to kind of talk about her expectations for the season and she's coming through on that promise. She's coming
Oh
through on that
man, yeah.
manifestation, dude. So, I mean, nothing but love, appreciation for that whole program. So, looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, can't wait to see what happens. So,
Yeah.
uh, next one, man, soccer. They are at Northern Colorado. Is that soccer? Sorry, guys, soccer. Yeah. This Sunday they had a couple losses. Sorry, I don't have it on here. They had a loss against, I believe, Idaho, and then they tied Eastern Washington.
Hmm.
And so, what that looks like, I have the score or the standings here. Come on. Show. There we go. So Montana is tied for basically fourth place right now in the Big Ten standings. We got a little bit of work to do. Idaho is undefeated in the conference, which we lost by one goal to them. So we're 1-2-1. So it looks like we're far the way down there, but we're only one game away from second place.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take in account like, oh wow, we're not doing well. We've
Uh-huh.
played a lot of good competition, and a lot of those games have been pretty close. So,
Yeah, and that's a crazy part with Coach C. I mean, you always have a chance.
yep,
You know, regardless of the circumstances, there's always an opportunity. He always puts them in a good position to win the game.
yep,
And so, I mean, sometimes it just doesn't fold our way, you know,
yep,
but I do think that we are a strong playoff run team. You know, I
yeah,
think time and time and again, we've seen that for the past couple of years, and that expectation is going to be the same way, you know. And
yep.
so, I mean, how many more games do we have in the season? Like four or something like that?
I believe we have 4. I'll check it, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
we said last week we had 6, so I believe we only have 4
Yeah.
left.
So
So
we're coming down to the final couple games, y'all. So make sure to get out there, get your asses out there. I know you guys aren't doing stuff on the weekends because I'm not doing stuff on the weekends either, especially this weekend. So go out there, support, and go show some love.
exactly. So yeah, we have 4 games left. Versus Northern Colorado is this Sunday in Missoula, and then Northern Arizona is that next Sunday in Missoula, and then to finish out their season, they're at Idaho State and at Weber State.
Perfect. Well, good luck to
So
those guys.
exactly.
Hmm.
So next, softball had their exhibition season. They're wrapping it up here Saturday. They're playing North Idaho and MSU Billings. It will be in Missoula, so go check out some volleyball, or not volleyball. Sorry, gosh, softball.
Come
If
on
you're out,
now.
I know, right? 10:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. If you're in Missoula, go check them out. Support the softball team and what they're doing. And I think after that, they'll then wait for the spring season.
Perfect. Yeah. Good luck to them.
Men's and women's cross country. They are at the LC State Invitational in Lewiston, Idaho, this Saturday. Yeah, I like I said, it's a sport that doesn't get enough love, but it is hard just to
Hmm.
run by yourself. It is a lonely sport, and you only can blame yourself. So
Yeah, you got to be a little different, a little bit of a different mental capacity to
yeah,
being able to sustain a run like that, man. So, like I've said this before multiple times, I got nothing respect for those guys, and so,
yep.
yeah, I mean, good luck to them because that's a tough one.
Our last and final one, man, we've got men's tennis. They are at the Idaho State Invitational this Friday through Sunday. The women aren't there. I think they have a break in their action until the next week. So go support or go support if you can. If you're not, go watch. I don't think they have men's tennis in the ESPN Plus,
I don't think so either.
which that would
I
be
think,
cool if they did. That would be kind of cool.
oh, that'd be so entertaining. You
Yeah.
know, I was watching a couple of weeks ago when Serena Williams was playing,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's honestly probably the first time I ever took time to like set aside to go watch a tennis event.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's such a
Oh yeah.
dope sport.
It is.
Oh,
It is so hard. Have you actually played tennis before?
no, I played it by myself, like on a wall,
Oh,
and I think I'm
oh
good,
no,
but
it is so hard. Like, oh my gosh, just hitting it over the net is hard enough. But then you just have to race back and forth. Oh man, it
mhm,
is such a cardio workout. It's amazing.
mhm, exactly. So maybe one of these days I'll have to get out there and play.
There
But
you
we're
go.
heading
There you
into
go.
winter time. Spring's getting lazy, so we're
There you
heading into
go.
winter time.
Oh man, I know winter. I'm not looking forward to it, man. Ugh.
I am getting a new snowboard though, so I'm super excited for that.
There
It'll
you
be good.
go. There you go.
It'll be good. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, that is Grizz update. That's all I have for you. But hey, let's move into breaking down the Idaho State victory. I've got a lot of things. I totally want to hear, Angel, what your thoughts are on it. What were you thinking? Because I know what I was thinking. I just got to say this because I was coming down the mountain. I had not watched it,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna check the score. I want to make sure I beat Angel this week. I got to get some good juices going.
Yeah.
And I had to do a double look, and I'm like, no, wait, that's got to be it. That's got to be an error. So I went to another spot, and I was like, whoa, what happened? I was like,
Mhm.
went home, put the kids to bed, and I was like, okay, I got to see what happened.
Mhm.
And so it was, yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked.
Mhm.
So with that, what were your thoughts, Angel, going after this game?
Uh,
What were you thinking, man?
Well, let me say this to, start it off. I mean, you can't be mad about a win, regardless of
No,
what went on. At the
nope.
end of the day, we came out on top, and that's one thing that Bobby, drilled into my head. Winning is extremely hard to do,
Yep.
regardless of who it's against, and regardless of the situations or circumstances, the arena that you're in, it's always going to be a tough thing to do.
Yep.
Obviously, we were traveling over to Idaho this week. We played at their home. We had a pretty good show out. And the expectation coming from last week was, hey, we're going to pound these guys to the ground. There was a
Yeah.
couple things that really kind of stuck out to me. But before we do that, let's just do kind of a little bit of a breakdown of the
Yep.
scoring. So,
Yep.
first quarter, it was 0 on our end. Idaho State had a field goal, so they came up with 3 points. That second quarter, we really kind of took it away. We scored 21 points in the second quarter. They scored 3. So at this point in time, it's 21-6. We scored 7 in the third quarter. They scored 0 in the third quarter, so it's 28-6. And then
Yep.
in the fourth quarter, they started kind of making a comeback and scored 14 points while we didn't score any in that fourth quarter. It was a
Yep.
little bit of a weird game, but again, we can't take away that the most important thing, is a win. I think I
Yep.
was listening to Riley kind of talk about the game afterwards, and it's funny when Bobby wins. I think he had mentioned when Bobby wins, by a substantial amount, it was never good enough. But when we barely win a couple games, by the thread of our hairs, he's always like, "Hey, man, I'm happy for a win," and I kind of feel the same way. Kind of reflecting on that. It wasn't the prettiest, but we got the job done.
Yeah.
I think realistically, when we kind of looked at it and what we kind of expected how Idaho State's was gonna play, I
Yeah.
think it threw me off a little bit. I really thought that they were going to be a little bit more run conscious, a little bit more run heavy. And even though they did have attempts, they took chances in the air,
Yeah,
especially
they
with the
did.
third string quarterback.
Yeah.
So that might play to the little bit of the unfamiliarness. I don't know how we kind of prep for this. Maybe we expected the same thing. Maybe we expected a little bit more of a run kind of heavy game. One thing that I did see is that their offensive line, I was pretty impressed. They did a pretty good job,
Yeah.
picking up and slowing down our blitzes a little bit.
Well,
And
and
it
then
just went to go ahead.
yeah, and their quarterback did not look like a third string quarterback.
No, he didn't
Like
look
to
like a
be
third
honest,
quarterback.
like he was very smart. Like when he got pressure on him, he was the smartest. And I hopefully none of the quarterbacks will watch this and that we play. He threw the ball away right away, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably what his coaches told him to do. Don't try to get something that you can just throw it away. We'll live to see another down. And it never got our defense that kind of momentum where that killing instinct where hey we got some juice going, and so that and like you said, their offensive line did an amazing. I thought they did an amazing job of picking up our blitzes. There was a couple times where yeah we got to the quarterback, but overall they did an amazing job.
Yeah, and that's one thing that kind of stuck out to me. And it wasn't necessarily on the side of we didn't do enough. It was just, hey, they just did a good job. They
Yep.
kind of realized our blitz packages, what we were kind of looking to accomplish when it comes to something like that. And again, they did a pretty good job of just being able to slow down our blitz. Not
Yeah.
necessarily eliminate it completely and
Yep.
stop us from doing it because we still got there plenty of times. But I think the quarterback was in that perfect kind of Zen mode. He understood, hey, these guys are going to do everything they can to just give me enough time to make a safe read. And I felt
Yep.
that that's what he was doing. He was making those safer plays. He did get aggressive at times, but
Oh
but
yeah.
nothing that I wouldn't expect. Just from being able to play the quarterback position. If he has the time, if he sees an opening, he's going to take it regardless if it's a gamble or not. And I think his gambles kind of fell, pretty good for most of the game. But
Yep.
again, going to show I mean, that's the most amount of points our defense has allowed up to this year, up to this date for the season, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And even
Yeah.
then, I still think they did a good job being able to adjust. They played 4 quarters, even though if it wasn't the prettiest. They gave it that effort to really kind of give us a chance to win. I know some of those guys. I think I was reading a couple articles where like Governor, he says, "Well, you know what? We got the job done, but it wasn't to our standard. It wasn't to our liking." And so they're
Yeah.
gonna take that into this bye week and
Oh yeah.
kind of really rip it off the chains for next week. I think.
Well, and one of the things that, and I don't know about you, one of the things that it was the turning point of that game was the Lucas Johnson fumble, right?
Oh yeah, that was
On the
tough.
goal line. on the goal line trying to make a play, like how he does, right? And he fumbles it. It goes into the end zone. It's a touchback. It's their score, right? That was at a point in time in the fourth quarter where it was 28-6. If we got a touchdown there, that'd be 35-6. They then go on. It doesn't happen. We turn over the ball. They then go on to score 14 more points, 28-20. That was a huge part of that game where that momentum switch just swung. And one of the things that really, and I'm just going to go offense. So offense first. I'm glad that they kind of showed the two back again, where they had, I think it was Marcus and Xavier. The pace was with the offense, it wasn't as quick as I thought it would be, and it was very emotionless. I thought sometimes very just kind of. I don't know if it was just because of a road trip that we're kind of just like tired, sluggish, but it didn't have that emotion like how you usually do. I was impressed by the 2-minute drill right before the end of the half.
That was cool.
To get that, to get that touchdown. We averaged 5.9 yards on the ground, which was awesome because I think I was almost right, Angel. Osmo had 14 carries.
I saw that. Yeah.
Marcus had 14 carries, and Xavier had 7. I was so close. And so
I did see that. Yeah.
It was really awesome to see that. I'm so excited for Marcus. He's back. 14 carries, 111 yards.
Dude, that was awesome. And that was kind of what I was thinking about. I'm kind of curious now, what changed from last week to this week? Maybe it was maybe something that they saw that maybe played a little bit better to Marcus's strengths, because again, Harris got in, but just got in with a little bit more touches. It seems like, him and Marcus are really kind of racing for the number 1 spot. I think Osmo is a solid 2 in any situation. And I think he's proved that he needs to be out on that field. I'm always impressed when I see Osmo play. I feel like every single week he gets a little bit better, just a little bit better. He understands things, to really kind of excel into the next level of running back play. But it was awesome, dude, to see Marcus out there, chugging through, some of those plays and, taking out big chunks from the defense and scoring touchdowns. And, it was cool to be able to see that, man. And just, I hope that they continue, to utilize the strengths that they have in the backfield. On our offensive side too, I mean, it's really kind of hard to, really keep yourself in a football game, when you have 3 turnovers. We had an interception, we had that fumble, and then we had Cale Edwards on a short kickoff, fumbling the ball. It's really, really hard to keep yourself into a game. So the fact that they did and still were able to come out on top, that speaks a lot to the team, because at any given time, when they shift the momentum, because they were right there, they were a yard away from getting that touchdown, changing the tide to 35-6 football game. And it just ended up, he took a gamble. As an athlete, sometimes you have to take those gambles, and I did it play in his favor. You think about that Michael Jordan commercial. He's like, I shot 16,000 times and I missed. You know what I mean? So you think about that, and it's just like, what, as an individual that wants to desperately win a game, it's one of those things. Is I think you just need to determine if it's worth it or not in a situation like that. At that point, you're up 28-6, really kind of pushing over to the edge where they're going to start crumbling. Is it worth it to reach out and maybe just take another attempt at getting a yard? I think we had the line to be able to do it. But at the same time, because we all know that Bobby's never been a fan of that reaching out. If you look at all of his receivers out there, one thing that you're going to see is that they're always going to have 4 points of contact or 3 points of contact. The ball's always going to be tucked right here, and you never see it out and about just kind of hanging out.
Well, and Lucas does that. Have you seen him like scrambling? Like he does that. He kind of starts running with it like this, and then he tucks it. But he does kind of at first before he tucks it.
That's one of his biggest things. It's one of his biggest things. One of the cool things that we like to do is that, like, after games, he'll send photos. He'll take photos, and
Really?
he'll show you individually, in front of the team. He'll be like, do you think you caught it or not? And then he'll show you the photo. And sometimes they'll have, a little bit of error, and he's like, all right, everybody do push-ups or something like that. I mean, it's competitive down to everything, where the ball is in your hand, how tight do you have it? Do you have any air showing? So, him taking the gamble and extending his arm all the way out, I know that's not something that Bobby is too fond of,
Yeah.
simply because it leads to potential, situations like that happened this past weekend.
So you're saying Kale's probably going to have to do some push-ups then?
Maybe Kale,
Yeah.
maybe Lucas, but like I said, all that matters is that we came out with a dub. But
Exactly.
just on the offensive side, I do think that our line held them out pretty well. I
Yeah.
think they did a pretty good job. It was one of those things is I would have loved to see, a little bit more of a dominating game score-wise, but I
Yeah.
think they did everything that they needed to do to get the job done. I think just a couple big decisions, kind of kept them into the game. It was no fault of anything that Idaho State was doing. I didn't think they were overly spectacular, but I will say this: those kids wanted to win so bad.
Oh
They
yeah,
kept
Idaho
in
State, they played
the
so
heart.
hard. Yeah.
The announcers were obviously favoring them. You can tell that they were, high up on Idaho State, maybe coming back from a come behind victory, just because that's traditionally what you see out of this rivalry especially when we travel over there.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
get that. Did you got that?
I don't know. I thought so. I mean, there
Oh
was a couple
really?
of times where he was just talking about Idaho State. Idaho
Yeah.
State. Oh man, they're giving everything they have. They have their
Yeah.
heart, heart on their sleeve. They're going after it. Maybe I was listening to something different, but
See,
I
and
could have
I think
sworn I felt at some point. I remember thinking I was like, man, this guy wants Idaho State to win or something.
I think they were kind of grasping at straws because they're a new, their coach is new, and so
Uh,
you kind of like lay it on thick of a new coach. You're gonna talk about, hey, their culture. You're putting a culture. You're playing really hard, and they're not giving up. That's a whole part of your first year there, and blah blah blah. So, but
mhm.
no. What about Mr. Mitch Roberts throwing that pass to Cole
Dude,
Grossman?
how clean was that?
Oh my
Literally
goodness.
going back and thinking about it, I mean, his eyes were on the ball within half a second. You see
Yeah.
him launching the ball. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't give it a second, turn, read the defense, and then throw. It literally was, hey, give me the ball. I'm turning and throwing instantly.
And then
Like
the
there was no
catch with
read.
the no, with the
And it
catch
was
and
a
then the butt
dime,
down.
dude.
Yeah. It was
It
it
was a
it had to.
dime.
It had to be. That guy was right on him, caught it, butt down, left cheek, whatever, right cheek. It was amazing. Amazing
Dude,
catch.
that was probably the highlight of the game for me. Just
Yeah.
being able to see that I think it was cool to see Marcus back out there and get
Yep.
more consistent touches. I mean, like I said before, they're all great running backs, but it was cool to see Cole Grossman, make a play like that. That's a tough play. He had to lean back, he was falling back on it, like you said, making sure that his, something was inside the end zone. And
Yep.
what a dime from Mitch Roberts.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
and I thought I was glad that happened with Cole because he hasn't probably had the season that he really has wanted. That game he missed a couple catches that were either thrown too hard or behind him. And so to get that kind of momentum or kind of just that, monkey off your back where you could have some good feelings, man. I really think that they need to be playing him in a different, just using him. But it's so hard because you can always, as a fan, you can say that, right? They're not using him the way that you think. Because I could say the same thing about Flowers, and I do think they're not using how they could.
Mhm.
Because and that's a lot of, okay, maybe the jet sweep. They could be using a lot more jet sweeps, but they are doing those plays. But Lucas is reading the defense and not giving it to him. But I I just think sometimes, man, you've got so many weapons, right? And someone's gonna not get the ball. But I hope that we can find some touches for Cole and for Flowers because I think that they're talents that we can't uh, not use.
Mhm. No,
Um,
and I think you kind of answered that what you were kind of saying right there with what you were just kind of how you were explaining it.
yeah,
We're so deep at every position. We have such amazing talent on all position sides of the balls. And so it's just kind of cool to see and utilize it. And I think simply because of that, I don't think it's necessary that they're intentionally looking not to play them or giving
no,
them
no,
opportunities. I just think it's one of the things is that week in and week out, they have a certain game plan. And I just think their game hasn't came yet, you
yeah,
know. And
yeah,
also too, we're finally kind of out of that stretch and starting and hitting it starting to enter, a backstretch of a tough season,
Oh yeah.
maybe it's now when they start to utilize in a different way,
Yep.
because we all know Bobby likes to keep his cards close to his chest. When it comes to, hey, you know what, at the end of the day, winning's hard. I'll break them out if I need to. But if I
Mm-hmm.
can save these plays until later in the season and not have to utilize them, and we can consistently run inside zone, a couple counters, some RPOs, and maybe some long balls and consistently win, I'm going to keep that strategy until I need to pull it out, you
Yeah.
know? And I
Yep.
think that may be the thought process there.
Yeah. Well, and what were your thoughts when so Lucas Johnson fumbles the ball, he gets pulled, Chris Brown comes in for the rest of the game.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure that was just a hey, sit down, think about how you're turning over the ball. But Chris did an okay job with replacing him. But are your thoughts the same kind of thing that was because of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would assume so. I mean, it
Yeah.
happened right after that. It didn't
Yeah.
happen, 10 plays down the line. It wasn't like it was the next quarter type of decision, or because that was third quarter, wasn't it? Or was
It
that
was
fourth quarter?
I believe it was the end of I think it was the end of the third quarter.
Okay, so
End
that's
of
what
the
I'm
third
thinking
quarter.
too.
Yeah.
So you know what? At that point, I don't blame him. You know,
Yeah.
Especially I kind of go back to the Weber State playoff game that we had over there. We played them early in the season. We beat the shit out of them, and then we ended up traveling to there for a playoff game in the quarters. And we ended up losing 17-10. And through no fault in Dalton's, it just wasn't his game, wasn't his day.
Yeah.
I think he threw for 3 interceptions or 5 interceptions or something like that. So some
Yep.
crazy that just wasn't in his characteristics. And it ended up being that I remember at one point, and this is just my personal opinion, maybe I mean, he's such a competitor, that
Mm-hmm.
he always wants to be out there, which is a really, really good thing. And he wanted to step up to the challenge. But I think there's been certain times in my career where Germer has set me down, taken me out of a series, and maybe basically say, hey, think about what you just did.
Yeah.
I need you to understand the gravity, and I need you to, get yourself together because it can't happen again.
Yeah.
In that type of moment, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe in the playoffs, I wish we would have done that for, 2 minutes, just taking him out, thrown Cam in. We've all know Cam to be super reliable, consistent. Give him
Yep.
just a couple of minutes to kind of regroup himself. And I think since we didn't do that, I think Bobby kind of maybe potentially learned a lesson there. Maybe I do need to do that, so maybe that might have been it. So like you said right now, it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily to punish him, but it was
Yeah.
just let him know, hey man, regroup for a couple minutes. We'll see if we can finish out this game. If we need you, we'll throw you back in there. If we don't, great. But you
Yep.
don't need to be stressing yourself out like that. So it could very well be like that, and I wouldn't doubt that Bobby does go that direction. So
Yeah.
being able to have a Chris in, I think he's really good about being able to plug in during those instances, just to be able to one, get more experience, but then two, just keep the ship running, keep it well
Exactly.
oiled, and kind of, hey, give Lucas a little bit of a break too. So I think it was strategic. I don't think it was out of spite. And I know Lucas is probably kicking himself in the foot right now, but I
Oh
know he
yeah.
wants to be better for next week.
Exactly. Defense, man. Some of the things that I kind of gleamed from this is we got again. It seems like it's coming back. We were taking advantage of the middle of the field, and I know that's just that's gonna be something that is what's gonna happen with our defense, right?
Hmm.
We run a scheme where our linebackers are blitzing, so you're gonna leave open that middle of that field. Um, is there anything that we can do? I have no clue. I know that you can probably stunt your linebackers and then have them go back, which we do. But when we play a Eastern Washington, who's going to throw the ball? Do we do that more? Do we do that more against Sac State? It's going to be really interesting to see down the line where we're going to be playing these passing teams. That hey, we're gonna still blitz, but are we going to do it in a ratio where it's not 70-30? Is it going to be more 50-50? Because the teams already know how to beat our defense. It's hit the middle with passing, or hit those quick hits over the middle. And some of the passes that they took, the deep passes, they were able to get some yardage. And honestly, I really think that the loss of Trajan Cotton did kind of hurt us there, which I think it was a good call.
That was such a
See,
tough call though. It's
it
such
was
a, I mean,
the refs had to make that call, right? He did hit him with the shoulder in the head, but this is the hard part. When Trajan's going down for that hit, the guy is up,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, he's
He's
not intent.
leaving.
Like you can tell,
No,
he's not intentionally trying to
no,
headhunt this guy. I just think it ended up being a wrong place, wrong type of
yeah.
situation.
He's
He was
going.
he was
He's leaving his.
falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was already
It's
falling down. At that point, it looks like he was a nasty shot, but it
yeah.
really wasn't.
No.
I mean, he wasn't going for that. That wasn't his intentions. You can tell. It just ended up being he ended up falling at the wrong time. His
Yeah.
shoulder ended up being at the wrong place, and so that I think that definitely does. Because again, the toughest part about it, it all started that you have to travel to their location.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to do. Nobody likes to do it. Previous weeks, we've heard like in Indiana State, heard there was a quick turnaround. We were on the ground for less than 24 hours and back on the bus and going back home, you
Yeah.
know, because we understand that traveling is a tough thing to do. It just takes you off your routine. And so, what, that's one thing that I did kind of notice. It seemed like we were a little bit down in the dumps for a little bit. It took us a little bit longer to kind of get our engine, kind of started. So because of that, I don't necessarily attribute that to, being a bad team by any means, but it's just
No.
one of those things is, okay, we understand that this could affect us, so we need to plan accordingly when we do travel just to be a little bit more efficient.
Well, and that's kind of the scares me a little bit because not this next game we're playing Idaho at home, but the next two games are road games,
Hmm.
and one of those road games is at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night in Sacramento. So that game's not going to get over till what 10, 11, 12.
Hmm.
We get home at what Sunday morning probably, and
Hmm.
then we get right into it for Weber State, and then have to go that next week and go to Weber State. That's a hard stretch, man. Those are back to back hard games on the road. You know, that's where I think our season is going to be put to the test and see how we react to that. See how the guys' bodies react to that, because that's going to be a hard stretch.
Hmm. No, 100% it is. And so, I mean, just going back to, the Idaho State game, I mean, that could have played a little bit of a factor, just
Yeah,
traveling to somebody else's play. I've been guilty of that. I haven't played my best when I'm on the road. Sometimes it just happens. And so I think to really be a top tier football team, I think it was good that it happened here
yeah,
because obviously we still came out with a dub, but it kind of opened our eyes to let us know that, hey, you know what? We're human just like anybody else, and we need to make sure we stay on top of every factor in every phase of the game. Even as something that's insignificant as a travel,
hmm
it plays a part into how you guys go out there and get the game started. And so again, a little bit slow first quarter, we turned it on second quarter, and then from there coming out of half, it just one of those things where it just seems like we weren't clicking all together. And so I know
yeah,
it's frustrating on the player side when they kind of started diving deep into probably the film study. But I also know that with the head coach, with the structures that we have in place, that it's out, it's flushed. We learn from our mistakes, and we're focused on obviously Idaho within 2 weeks.
yeah. And like we said, we kind of went over this. My thoughts. We weren't able to get some of the pressure like we wanted to. Their line did a really good job.
Hmm.
ISU made some really good smart plays.
They did.
With the ball. They got us on some deep plays down the field, and we gave up 14 points in the fourth quarter, which hasn't happened at all this year. And
I do
so,
think that they got away with a couple plays too. I saw a couple pushes off the corners,
yeah,
off the safeties. So I
yep,
did think that they got away with a couple of those things. Obviously, this is me just being, a game analyst. I can know anything,
yeah,
I did see a couple of things that they got away with for sure. And yeah, I mean, it was an ugly win, but it was a win, and
yeah,
that's all I can be happy for. Like you said, just kind of breaking it down and summarizing it. 100%. I thought they did a good job just slowing down the pressure that we were giving him to give him just enough time, to feel comfortable back there. He
yep,
did. He seemed like he was pretty locked into the game for being a third string quarterback, and ready to try to go win the damn thing. So that was cool to see. I think we just have superior talent at every position on the field.
Yeah.
And that played. I mean, you saw that. I mean, we're throwing them around. It just, some plays didn't go our way. We're just missing by a hair.
Yep.
Those sort of things. So I mean, it's a game to learn from, and we need these games, people. And people don't understand. Well, it wasn't a precedent of bullshit. It's a win. We're five
Yeah.
and 0 in the or in for the season. That's not a damn place. The damn bad place to win. Last time we were 5-0, I think was in 2009 or something like that.
Believe so. I believe so
Yeah,
too.
something like that. And I think we made the championship that year too. So
Yeah.
we're looking good, people. And I think that
Yep.
exact year too, we played Idaho, and I think we ended up beating them like 10-12. So
I
people are
believe
freaking
so. Yeah.
out, but let me
Yep.
tell you this: don't be freaking out. Take a chill pill. Go on a walk this afternoon. Maybe have a couple brewskis to relax. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna kick the shit out of Idaho in 2 weeks, but we'll have a preview for that here
Well,
next
and
week.
if you want to go way down deep, well, the last weekend, Georgia, the number one team, barely beats Missouri, right?
Yeah,
So
it was a weird
so
weekend of football. I'm
yeah,
telling you.
so like if the number one team in the FBS can barely squeak out a win, I think the number three team in the FCS is able to do that too. But man, our special teams, we kind of had an up and down special teams. We know we had that fumble, but man, Patrick Rohrback getting
Special teams player of the
special
week,
teams player of the
baby.
year, 52.8 average. He is totally killing it, man. Congrats to him. But yeah, I just I can't. If you have not seen the interview we've done with him, it is an awesome interview with Patrick, where he just bleeds maroon, man, and it's
Hmm.
awesome to see. And I'm so excited that he's just killing it, man. His first year, and kind of wishing him the best. But also one thing that kind of hit me, man, of this game before we kind of wrap up, but the injury bug kind of hit us, man. Junior Burton
Yeah.
has a hamstring injury, and Liam Brown goes down. I believe it was like the second quarter or something. It looked like some type of a knee issue. I'm not the
Hmm.
doctor, but he didn't return to the game. But Junior Grims, I think it's Grimsard, did a really good job in his absence. So hopefully, Liam finds health and gets back on the field. But yeah, it's going to happen. It was just a matter of when.
Yeah, 100%. And so just being able to take care of your body, this is where it starts to get ugly for some teams.
Yep.
The injury bust, start to come along. And so, I'm confident those guys are doing everything they need to do in
Yep.
order to try to keep them upright. And I just pray that they realize at this point of the season, it's nutting up and going out there and grinding it out. And so you're gonna be, banged up regardless of who you are. You take a beating for sure, but just make sure that you're doing things. You're spending the time in the training room. You're doing some mobility work at home. You're taking the time to fuel your body the right way. And, through the course of, a couple of weeks, it will make a difference. Through the course of a season, through the course of, your next couple of years just being an athlete, it'll change the way you view the game. It'll change the speed of it. It'll start to slow down for you. I mean, it just does wonders for you just being able to take care of your body. And so, yeah, I mean, I wish some speedy recoveries. Hopefully, it's just something that they can come back. Again, we're in bye week right now, so it just gives them opportunities to lick some of those wounds to feel better for next week. And so, bye week came at the perfect time for sure.
Exactly, exactly. We have a couple questions that we want to get to, but Angel, I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Since you've played for the Grizz, man, this bye week. What is this
Yeah.
bye week like? What is it? What does it entail? What is it? What is it like for a player that's on the Grizz?
You know what? So really, it's kind of based around really kind of getting our feet back under us. We still get after it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We're still putting on the pads. We're banging a little bit. We're prepping for obviously the following the week's team, and we also take a little bit more time to look at the week before's game, whether it be a win or loss. Primarily, I've been on the back end of both of them, a win and a loss. And it's given me time just to spend a little bit more time in the film room. Gives me a little bit more time to spend a little bit in the training facilities. Workouts were there obviously have a different strength to us, but during this week we would really focus on mobility strength training, making sure we were feeling pretty loose, we were still mobile enough that we weren't so tense and tight
And
square,
yeah,
because that's when you start to really kind of build up those injuries. And then normally, depending on the week, depending on the win, we'll have, I think, a Saturday afternoon off to be able to hang out with friends and family. So it's really just one of those weeks to really get your mind refocused. We really start hounding in on, hey, you know what, this is times to take care of your body. Make sure we don't lose focus of the vision because you're obviously being in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Potentially, some people start to steer away, and it starts to get a little bit tough. But they do a pretty good job of ingraining that these are where the champions are made. So make sure that you're taking the time to, take care of yours.
Exactly. Well, hey, we've got some questions on
Yeah.
Egriz. Beware of the D. Asks, how concerned are you both with the sloppy special team mistakes? Also, it drives me nuts that we cannot seem to consistently pick up third and fourth in short. It seems like it has been a problem for years. What do you think the main issue is that keeps us hanging us up? Um, the special teams doesn't worry me. A lot of the guys that are doing those mistakes are kind of new to the program. They're new, they're younger guys. But I'm sure that Bobby will get those, straightened out.
Yeah.
The third and fourth and short, I think that has been a problem. Like last year, it was a huge problem where we weren't getting those red
Mm-hmm.
zone. I think that with a new line and with some running backs trying to get into the groove and kind of getting into more like play shape, I think that will kind of straighten itself out. But I'm not too worried about it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now that last year
Mm-hmm.
it was a problem. If it keeps on happening, it might be a problem, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. No, kind of like what you said, the special teams mistakes. If it was any other coach other than Body, I'd be worried. With
Yeah.
him, obviously, that is his niche. That is where he excels as a coach, and he's really damn good at it. So because of that, if you felt that it was a little bit sloppy, again, just like any other game, there's going to be things that weren't perfect. I do think that this is going to be an opportunity that Bobby really kind of takes to correct those mistakes. So I'm not necessarily too worried about the special team simply because I know we have kind of a game plan already in order, especially being Bobby's kind of forte. As far as the third and fourth, um, this is maybe a little bit different than what people think. It's 100% on the offensive line. What people always say, well, there's a whole team out there, 100%. But since being playing that position, it always felt like, hey, this is our job. And when we
Yeah.
don't do it, we failed. And so because of that, I think that speaks a little bit to the experience that we have on the line. We have a couple newbies. We have a couple guys with some experience and some guys that are transferring from a different position. You know, I think those short third and fourth downs. I think as the season goes, they're going to start to progress because they're going to realize that every inch matters, especially heading into these bigger games.
Yep.
Right now, we can get away with it because I think we know we're better than these teams, which should be
Exactly.
expected. We should beat the brakes off these teams.
Yep.
Heading into this back end of the season, this is where we start having to net up a little bit, and every single down, every single inch counts. And in those big games, it's going to be a game of inches. And so that's where it's really going to come into play. So I hope as the year progresses, they understand the importance of those short yardage situations and figure out a way to really kind of net up because that's just what DOLA is, baby. We got to figure out a way to get it done. We get the job done together, and it's if we don't, that's on us. And so,
Exactly.
yeah.
This next question, I believe, is a Cat fan trying to stir something
Hmm.
up. So, West Coast fan, if the Cats, Weber, Sac State, and possibly Eastern Idaho and UC Davis played the same 5-game schedule as the Grizz so far, would they all be 5-0? He says, I believe they would, meaning we still really don't know how good the Grizz are, uh, but we're going to find out. I don't think that all those teams would be 5-0 if they played our schedule by now. I definitely don't think Idaho would be. I don't think UC Davis would be, and I would question Eastern as well. I think the Cats and Weber State and Sac State would be undefeated if they played our schedule. But you can't compare apples and oranges. Yeah, we may have an easier first 5 games, but our next 6 are going to be way harder than your first 5. So And then some Grizz fans kind of go after him about the Cats losing to Oregon State by 20 or by 40. And then he gives us crap about only scoring 28. I'd rather score 28 against Oregon State than 28 against Idaho State. So, but you can hate on us. You can hate on us. That's fine.
These hypotheticals, man. I mean, why? For what purpose? Would it be 5-0? I don't know. What do you mean? I'm not a genie. I don't know. Like you
Well, and
said,
we have no
if I'm
control
doing,
over our schedule. Like,
yeah,
we don't pick those games.
Like the players, I'm like, ooh, let's get fucking Idaho State in that schedule. No, like it doesn't matter. You get carded belts. We've been part of some shitty ends of a couple tough schedules that are way tougher than a lot of these guys or a lot of these teams I've played for. Am I going to say hypotheticals? Well, if they would have played our schedule, no. You win them or you lose them. You win them or you lose them. Let's find out. Let's find out. It doesn't matter. We're at where we're at in the season. We got dealt the cards that we're getting dealt. I can remember a handful of times where I'm saying, well, Eastern Washington has a bullshit season. I can remember a handful of times that are like, well, the Cats have a bullshit season. I'm not sitting here crying about it. It's just basically one of those things is let's find out who comes out on top at the end. Because at the end
we'll definitely play the Cats, and we'll see who's the best.
We got to play the Cats. We got to play Weber State. We got to play Sacramento State. I mean, those aren't pushover. We got to play Eastern Washington. Are you kidding me? We still get a tough schedule just because we don't do it the first game.
When you want.
I don't know, dude. Something like that. Let's find out. How about that?
Exactly.
Let's find out.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
But definitely go to Egris. So some of the comments on it are hilarious.
Was he a Cat fan?
I'm pretty sure because he spelled Grizz Gris. And then he brings up, then someone's like, "Yeah, good job spelling Grizz the right way, Cat fan." And then he goes into the Oregon State, so he kind of showed his cards. But our last question is from Grizzing Gatorland. Grizzing Gatorland. There you go. Grizz in Gatorland. Sorry, gosh.
Okay.
Wow. How much do you feel not having Junior Bergen hurt the Grizz last week? It seems to me that many times he has a good punt return, which helps the Grizz gain momentum. And once they have that, they seem nearly unbeatable. I think that, having a playmaker like that kind of is nice to have. But I really do think that it's the next man up. And you saw that. You saw Keelan White raise his game, and he did awesome. So I really don't think, if we lose Junior Bergen, he's a great talent, but I don't think that there's guys that can't step up and do the same thing. Would it be more punt returns? No, but there's some other areas that we can get momentum by where it's not just a punt return, where it's not just a kick return, because we've got some guys that can play.
Yeah, just thinking about Junior just in general, he's so electrifying. He reminds me of a lot of maybe not the same play style, but just the energy that he brought to the field. Kind of very similar to Jerry Lou McGee.
I was thinking the same thing.
Whenever he touches the ball, it's exciting. Whenever he scores a touchdown, it's at the right time. It's when we need it, when we need that momentum, and I think he has that energy to him that's just kind of contagious. And you love it as a teammate. You love it as a fan. It's one of those things is, it's going back to this past week. I really hope and pray that he just isn't hurt like that. I'm praying that it's a little bit of a tweak that he's going to be able to come back because he's a talent for sure. On the other end of things, I agree with what you said too. We've been dealt before. I mean, we think about last year, some tough cards, brutal cards, as far as injuries goes. And we still ended up to have, a pretty successful season, but not what it should have been and what it could have been, And so it's not necessarily taken away from the team. I just think it's taken away from, the potential that we could potentially have for this upcoming season. And I think that's where it gets a little bit sad because at the end of the day, they got plenty of talent, but there's a reason that he's at the forefront of that. There's a reason that you have those Keelings and your Leaks and your Coles and, all these other guys and your Roberts that are just so talented in so many ways because they just elevate it. They understand the game. and they help bring it to the highest form that you could possibly want it. And so, again, we hope that those guys, him, Brown, even who was it, Braxton Hill. I saw him in New Jersey this weekend, so I hope those guys have a
Oh yeah, because
pretty
he was
speedy
hurt last
recovery.
weekend too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we
Yep.
hope that they're able to kind of make it back out there because there's just something about their energies that is really really awesome to see, and so we need them to be healthy for the rest of the
Well,
season. So
well, in Junior Bergen, like you do not, if it is a hamstring, right? You do not want
mhm,
to rush a hamstring because I always feel, and I'm not a doctor, but always feel like your hamstring, if your hamstring starts hurting and you don't take care of it, if you keep on playing and keep on playing, it might be your knee. It might be something else way more major that I feel like that kind of is like a warning sign of, hey, you got to take care of your body before it leads to something catastrophic. So hopefully he heals, takes the time that he needs, not to take the time that he feels like he should give to the team. Take the time to fully heal where you can not, you can do what you need to do because that's the most important thing, man.
mhm,
So
mhm. Yep. Like we said, the biggest thing. I mean, we said it the first week of the podcast. We just got to remain healthy.
yep.
If we remain healthy, we'll have a chance no matter who we play, no matter what location, and it's gonna be a fun back half of the season, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like this first half has just flown by.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like next week, guys, we will have a preview of Idaho. But yeah, I have to give Angel props. He did win this week by like 3 points. I'm yeah. It does
What's the
not look
record?
good. You're
What's the
4-0,
record?
man. 4-0.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
The first week we tied. You have pulled four straight out. I'm gonna have to like do a comeback here, man. This is getting ridiculous. So,
Let's see.
but yeah, I got to give you props. But guys, make sure that you rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. You can find our podcast everywhere you get your podcast. Again, thank you for sending in those questions. Those people that did, we love to hear from you. So keep on getting a hold of us. You can get a hold of us on all of our platforms on Instagram, Twitter at fightonmontana. Check us out on the YouTube channel with FCS Fans Nation there. And yeah, we will check you on the flip side on next week.
100%, man. Like we said, just keep sending those questions your way. I know I give the cat fan a little bit of a hard time, but it's
Are you
all
feeling
in fun
bad?
and
Are you feeling
games.
bad, Angel?
You know what? I feel bad. Sometimes I can be mean, so I just
I
want to
don't.
say
I don't
keep
feel
keep
bad.
sending them. Keep sending them. It's all in fun and games. Yeah, guys, and go Grizz.
Fight on.